Learning about plants. Plant characteristics allow them to survive in many ecosystems. You'll be seeing some slides of some wetland plants and comparing them to desert plants. Plants in the wetland ecosystem have very weak stems because they are held up by the water. The lack of a protective surface on water plants allow them to absorb water and nutrients directly from the surrounding area. This slide shows the different types of plants in the wetlands. Wetland plants can be categorized as emergent, submergent, floating leaf, or repartent. Emergent plants, such as the broadleaf cattail, are rooted in the soil, but parts of them may extend above the water. Submergent plants include pondweed, remain entirely underwater. Floating plants, such as the water lily and lotus, have leaves on the water's surface with the roots hanging down, and the roots extend into the soil. Repartent plants living on the edge of the wetlands include buttonbrush and alder plants. Where do you think this plant lives? This cattail plant is from the wetlands. It is an emergent plant. Emergent plants are rooted in the soil in the shallow areas of the marsh, but their leaves and stems grow up from the air above the water's surface. The cattail and a bulrush are two of the most common emergent plants. The cattail has flat, sword-like shaped green leaves and a cigar-shaped spike on top which turns chocolate brown in late summer. It provides home and food for many different marsh animals. The bulrush is also a tall, thin, but has a round stem. It, too, is important as a home for many marsh animals, including muskrats and marsh wrens, which are birds. Its seeds are important for food for several types of water birds. How do you think this plant survives in the water? Floating plants, such as the water lily and lotus, have leaves on the water's surface, with roots hanging down and extending into the soil. Water lilies are rooted in the soil and have showy white or yellow flowers. Let's compare desert plants to the plants of the wetlands. Look at this plant. This plant is from the desert. How do you think this plant survives in the desert? Let's take a look once again at wetland plants. Besides the lily, another common floating leaf plant is duckweed. Duckweed has very small floating leaves and fine roots which dangle beneath the water. It often forms a bright green carpet across broad areas of the wetlands. It is easily pushed around by wind or waves, but it is important as a home for many insects and as food for ducks. Describe this wetland plant. How do you think it survives in a hot environment? Where do you think this plant lives? In the desert or the wetlands? This plant can be found in the desert. How does the structure of the plant help it survive in its ecosystem? Another category of wetland plants besides emergent and floating leaf plants are the submerged plants. These submerged plants are rooted plants with most of their plant mass below the water surface, although some parts may stick above the water. One important characteristic of the submerged plants is their flaccid or soft stems, which is why they usually do not rise above the water surface. Some type of submerged plants are fanwort or water milfoil. Where does most of this plant grow? Let's take a look at the types of wetland plants again. There are 4 categories. Living on the edge of the wetlands and not in this slide are the repartant plants. On the edge of the water are the emergent plants, which are the cattails. Living underneath the water are the submerged plants. And floating on the water are the floating leaf plants. Good job, you are finished.